Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to divide an expression by a linear factor that is in the form of x minus a number. It could be x plus a number. I will give you another example for that. But this is x cubed minus 4x squared minus 1, and you want to divide by x minus 3. Okay, so let me tell you something about when can we use the synthetic division for this. So to use the synthetic division, the divisor that you are going to divide something, the divisor must start with x, okay? And it can be x minus a number or x plus a number, but it must be x by itself. All right, so to do that, so first of all, what you do is you solve the divisor, okay? So if you solve the divisor, what do you get? So if you solve x minus 3 and then set that equals to 0, you got x equals to 3, okay? So what you do is you draw a vertical line like this, and then you write 3 here. All right, the next thing you do is, what is the degree of this polynomial, or what is the degree of this expression? This is x to the third, okay, x cubed. So you start writing x cubed, and then you write x squared. You start writing from the highest degree, highest exponent of x, and then write all the exponent. Although there is no x, you write x as well, okay, because there is no x, but you write x. You don't miss any of those exponents. And then for the constant, you write a constant. Make sense? So after you do this, what you do next is you write the coefficient of x cubed, that is 1. Write the coefficient of x squared is -4. Coefficient of x, there is no x, so you write 0. And then the constant term is -1. All right, so for the synthetic division, the first step you do after you're doing this, after you set up the things, first thing you do is for the first coefficient, you just write directly here, that is 1. Okay, the next thing you do is you multiply that 3 and then 1, and then you write down here. Okay, what do you get? So 3 times 1 is 3. Makes sense? Now what do you get? -4, and then you add these two, -4 and then 3 plus 3 will be -1. All right, then what do you do next is again do the same thing. You multiply this with that and then write down here. So what do you get? 3 times -1 is how much? -3, right? And you add that -3 with 0, what do you get? So -3 plus 0 is -3 by itself. And finally you multiply that 3 with that -3 and then write down here. What do you get? 3 times -3 is -9, and this is -10, right? -1 and then -9, because you add those. All right, so since this is x cubed, you write one less exponent. That will be, this is for x squared, this is for x, and this is for constant, and this is the remainder. Okay, so what do you get here then? So you get that the quotient, so the quotient in this case will be 1 times x squared is x squared, and -1 times x is minus x, and then -3. Okay, and the remainder is -10. So it looks like whenever you divide this expression by that, then the remainder is -10. So if the remainder is 0, then you would say that x minus 3 is a factor, okay? But the remainder is non-zero number, meaning that this is not a factor. X minus 3 is not a factor. So x minus 3 is not a factor. Okay, so let's do another example. Let me, okay. Let's do example number 2. Okay, so what you want to do here is you want to divide x cubed plus 3x squared plus 3x plus 1 by x plus 1. And then we want to decide whether x plus 1 is a factor or not. In this example, we make the same thing. So we make the table there. Okay, now since you are dividing by this, you solve this for x. X plus 1 equals to 0. Subtract 1. So x equals to -1. So you write -1 here. Makes sense? Similarly, what is the degree of this polynomial? What is the degree? Degree is 3. So you start from x cubed and then write x squared and then write x and then write constant. But before the constant, you can write a dotted vertical line. So exactly the same method. What do you do? What are the coefficient of x? What is the coefficient of x cubed? 1. Coefficient of x squared is 3. Coefficient of x is 3 again. And then a constant is +1. Right? As we did before, what you do is you write the 1 directly there. Right? And what you do? You multiply this with that. What do you get? So let me write this in blue. This is 1, right? And then 1 times -1, you write it here. What do you get? -1. Okay, so now you add, all these will be added there basically, right? So 3 and then -1 will be +2. So you do 2 times -1. 2 times -1 will be -2, right? And then 3 minus 2 will be 1. Again, 1 times -1 is -1, and then 1 minus 1 is 0. So what do you think the quotient would be? Because this is x cubed, you write this. This is for x squared, correct? So this is for x squared, and then x, and then constant. So you can see from here that the quotient is x squared plus 2 times x is plus 2x, and then plus 1, and the remainder is, so these things will always be the remainder, okay? Remainder is 0. Since the remainder is 0, then what do you get? That x plus 1 is the factor of this expression, okay? So because the remainder is 0. So therefore, x plus 1 is the factor. So this factor thing is similar to the number, right? Because let me take an example. If you're dividing 7 by 2, what you do is you divide 7 by 2, like 2 times 3 is 6 minus, right? So 1. So the remainder is 1, meaning that 7 is not divisible by 2. If the remainder is non-zero, then it is not divisible. If the remainder is 0, it is divisible, meaning that 2 is not the factor of 7. Not divisible means it is not the factor. If the remainder was 0, then you could say that this is a factor of the number you are dividing. All right? This is how we do the synthetic division, and we decide whether a given expression is factor or not.